Every freelance business begins with an idea, a spark. The early days are tough. You wear every hat. You hustle. But growth comes when you stop winging it and start building strategically. You learn to scale, to serve better clients, to earn more, and work smarter. And you realize you're not alone. Together, freelancers grow stronger. Welcome to Freelance Business Month 2025. Let's grow your business together.
A massive welcome. Massive welcome, everyone. If you're wondering, that was AI in action. I have not filmed all that by myself, of course. It's an honor. It is absolute honor to open the 6th edition of the Freelance Business Month, which means 6 years in a row we're having the longest celebration dedicated to freelancers in the world. We dedicate this month to those who building businesses on their own, who creating their own lifestyle, who are treasuring independence, and just name it, who's looking into the future. Freelancers are the future. I 100% believe in that. While you'll be learning a lot about growing your freelance business in a month, this opening I'd like to dedicate to sharing some insights about freelancing in the world. We will have amazing guest speakers joining from different parts of the world, sharing with you insights about the business, about the freelance economy, about challenges and opportunities. And stay till the end for the big reveal. I have something very exciting to share with you all. And now I am hugely excited to introduce you our first speaker. Freelancing has come a very long way, but it's definitely not slowing down. Let's look at the data. There are about 75 million freelancers in the States. In those, solopreneurs contribute more than 1.7 billion to the US economic activity. Many trends that are happening in Europe related to freelance economy are coming from the States. The States are the first adopters of solopreneurship and freelance lifestyle, so to say. And of course, we're looking a lot at the US when we learn solopreneurship. And for that reason, my first guest is Jay Clouse. And I have to read it from this paper because it's absolutely massive. He is nothing but remarkable. So Jay Clouse is solopreneur, like us, and creator. He's founder of Creator Science, a multi-million-dollar business with a top-ranked newsletter, podcast, YouTube channel, and a thriving membership community. Jay has built and sold multiple businesses. He's named Content Entrepreneur of the Year 2023 by Tilt. His podcast has won a prestigious Signal Award. He's also investor, educator, and trusted guide to thousands of creators worldwide. I can't tell how terrified was I filming this interview. I did not expect Jay to say yes to my request. So please bear with me while you see me going totally nuts with questions. But, I hope you will pick how humble Jay is and what is so crucial in running a solo business. Enjoy it. Hi, Jay.
Hello, Elina. It's great to meet you.
Thanks a lot for joining, Jay. I hugely appreciate it. From where are you joining?
Columbus, Ohio. Not exactly known as a burgeoning creator hub, but that is home.
Okay, Ohio. Never been. I traveled a lot in the US, but that's the only place I haven't visited yet.
The only place. Oh my gosh.
The only place, I would say. Yeah. But you know what? Your fame is spreading all the way from Ohio to Belgium. I'm based in Belgium, and I'm pretty sure lots and lots of freelancers and solopreneurs know you across the world.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's wild.
you've built amazing business and massive, massive reputation in helping creators and solopreneurs building sustainable business. So my question to you, and I really would love to know details there. Well, if you can distill your entire entrepreneurship journey into one dominative mind shift that helped you and the people that you teach to break through this plateau and start growing the business?
I would say I would say that the reason I have been successful is that I just never quit. And I kind of expect failure to happen in the micro, like failure happens all the time in small ways. But overall, I never really accepted failure as an option. Like failing to make this business work was not an option. The things that I try to do to make it work, some of those things may fail. But overall, I just always had the perspective that I'm going to figure it out. We're going to get there, even if it's incremental, even if it feels slow and painful. And honestly, most of the journey has. Most of the time for the last 8 years, it just felt like very slow, incremental improvements, incremental gains, small little wins here and there. There was never any big like inflection moment where this one piece of content went viral or this thing happened. Like there aren't stories like that in my journey. And some people have those stories, and that's amazing. But that hasn't been my story. My story has just been very small, incremental improvements, a lot of micro failures along the way. But at a macro level, I just refused for this not to work for me.
I love it. I love it. This is I think I would say, the essence of business, because nothing goes straight and direct, right? There are things that we have to adapt and move forward and try again. I like when someone said, like, you run quick, you change shoes if you have to, and you run again. But so
I like
it's
that.
never accepting the fact that actually it's not working, then maybe it's not yours. You just have to try again and again, right? This is what you
Yeah,
mean.
and small course corrections. You go down this path and maybe part of this has some promise and some things are working, but overall it's not working. And then so you got to shift a little bit this direction. But I think people have this belief that life is like a bunch of binary fork in the road decisions. And it's not usually the case. Usually, like choosing one path does not mean you can never get back to the second path. You just might have to take, kind of a roundabout way to get over there if you figure out you chose the wrong direction. But it's not permanent. Um, my friend James Clear has this analogy of decision making that he calls hats, haircuts, and tattoos. And I think a lot of people are slow to make decisions because they feel like they are permanent tattoo decisions, but most decisions are more like hats or haircuts. Hats you can just take on and off at will very quickly, and haircuts, yeah, like it takes a little bit longer to undo that decision, but it'll grow back. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing is set in stone. And I like that you do it publicly, because I'm following you for a couple of years and you literally documenting your journey so people can learn from that and actually see, okay, if Jay is doing that, maybe I should try too. And if it doesn't work for Jay, well, maybe I shouldn't try. Is it also the reason why you're sharing your successes and failures?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I got into this world of creating content for content creators because I loved the idea of creating content and I didn't know what I wanted to create content about. So in the immediate term, the thing that I was studying the most was other content creators. But now that I've realized my core audience and the core of what I create is helping other content creators, what more could I do than just share in real time what I'm doing, what's working, what I'm learning, how I'm feeling? I think it's incredibly helpful. It was the stuff that I craved the most as I was coming up. And I just get such great feedback on that because people feel more seen, more heard. They resonate with it. So, that was one of those little experiments where it's like, I'm going to share some of what I'm doing and it received good feedback. I'm going to keep doing that until that changes.
Yeah, and this is very inspiring. But if you would say, what is the most common mistake you see solopreneurs doing when they try to grow the business?
It's hard to get to a most common, but what I see often is people playing small, thinking small, not doing the things they know would really get results because it feels scary. This is something I'm still working on, by the way, is I think courage is hard to summon and put into action. It feels risky and scary, and you have to do the courageous things and make the courageous decisions and make the courageous efforts. You know, um, I've been reflecting lately. I haven't been making as many requests of interview guests for my podcast as I used to. I used to request like the biggest names in the world to come on my show that didn't exist. And now it exists and real people listen to it. But I'm more hesitant to reach out to the same people that I reached out to years ago. There's something about as you get more experienced, you have more knowledge. And it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The more competent you become, the more aware you are of how naive you used to be and how much there is for you to learn. And so I'm more aware now of the value of somebody's time. And if I'm making that request, really how big of a request that is. But I should still do it because they can say no, and I'm not going to be in any worse position. But it takes courage to overcome this belief, this feeling of who am I to do this? Or I know this is the thing I should do, but that feels scary. It takes courage to do that. And so more and more, I'm just boiling down a lot of what I'm seeing as a lack of self-belief, a lack of courage. And if you can start to chip away at that, you'll succeed faster.
Yeah, this is so humble of you to say. Hearing that from you specifically, I'm like, is it true? Are you saying that someone with with the as high level as you are, saying that you're afraid to approach people to give interviews, which should be so easy, in fact. And I think everyone has the same issues, whether you established entrepreneur or just starting. The self-doubts are killing sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I hear you say, do not give up, have courage, dare to do things, dare to make mistakes, stand up quickly and do it again.
Yeah. Run
That's my summary.
experiments, look at the data, see what came of that. I think the best content creators are the ones who are running the most experiments or the smartest experiments. You need to try things and get information and act based on those results.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Jay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Europe is home to 43 million freelancers, according to European Commission. We contribute approximately 500 billion annually to European Union GDP, which is approximately 34% of the total European Union GDP. Just think about it, 1/3. I'd like to talk about Generation Z for the moment. Generation Z is making significant impact on the European labor market. Predictions indicate that by 2030, Gen Z will comprise approximately of 1/3 of global workforce, with a substantial portion entering the European job market in the coming years. Multiple researches and studies suggest that Gen Z is prioritizing work-life balance over traditional career advancement, and the expectations for Gen Z freelancers will only increase. I spoke with Matt Dowling about this upcoming generation of freelance workers and what lays ahead of them. Matt Dowling, let me introduce you, is a founder of Freelancer Club, an award-winning community platform supporting freelancers with skills, resources, and job opportunities. He is an influential voice in shaping the future of work, contributing to policy discussions and cultural change. He has been featured in The Guardian, The Times, Financial Times, BBC, LBC and RTE as a champion of freelancer rights and empowerment. He's a speaker, campaigner, and leading authority on freelancers entrepreneurship. Please welcome Matt. Hi, Matt. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi, great to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. All the way from London.
Indeed, yeah. Sunny and rainy London.
Okay, it can be both at the same time, I know. Well, Matt, I have a few questions for you. And from your experience, and I know you do lots of educational support to freelancers, how would you describe the mindset and priorities of today's new generation of freelancers?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question. And I mean, to start answering that, I think we need to have a think about what we mean when we say freelancers. Not technically, but the needs and challenges and pain points of different groups of individuals that may identify as freelance. So, certainly for a lot of the folks who are side hustling at an early stage, particularly the students that we support, their mindset would be honed in and focused on the idea of bringing in any form of extra income. And that is primarily to do with the cost of living crisis that we're experiencing. I think there's also been a cultural shift and an attitudinal shift around how freelancing is viewed. I think it's much more accessible. And I read recently somewhere there was a 20% increase in the number of Gen Z engaging in a side hustle in the last 12 months alone, which is crazy. And then you have freelancers who might be looking at freelancing for different reasons. So it might be flexibility or work-life balance or lifestyle driven. And I think their mentality and their mindset is probably a mix of fear and excitement. I think they are probably quite worried about certain aspects that are hanging over them, such as AI, very rapid evolutions in technology. I still think there's a post-COVID economy that we are clawing back from. But then in equal measure, there's a great excitement about what they might be able to achieve again with this technology. So um, it's a mix of mindsets and priorities, but we still see the same underlying reason why individuals want to become freelance rather, which is a combination of lifestyle, income, and control.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think about next generation, obviously I think about my own kid and ultimately thinking how's gonna her work look like, what she would prefer doing. And I don't think she would say, Mom, I want to do 9 to 5, like for 40 years of my life. And are there key skills or areas where you see emergent freelancers missing out?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an area that I'm very interested in. We launched Freelancer Club about 10 years ago, and it started off as a community to bring people together. But over the past 7 years, we've been working very closely with the educational sector and delivering programs and various different training modules to thousands of aspiring freelancers. So the question, what should we teach, has been a question that we ask on a daily basis at Freelancer Club. And when we started that whole process, we mainly, I would say 99% of the time, delivered on business basics. So often we would talk about how you can brand yourself or identify your sellable skill, how you can land clients, how much you should charge, those real fundamental basics. But over the past few years, that's changed dramatically. We have introduced a lot more skills focus on mindset, everything from resilience training to imposter syndrome to tackling rejection, in fluctuating income. How can you handle 1 month to the next, not knowing how much you're going to make, getting comfortable in a very chaotic environment. And these core skills like communication, and teamwork have always been the foundations, in my opinion, for freelancers to thrive. I remember when we first launched, I spoke to somebody who was admittedly not the most talented freelancer in their market, but she said she was always on time. She was a great communicator and she took the initiative. So when something needed to be done, she would do it without being asked. And these soft skills are what kept getting her hired. And clients loved working with her. And we see that on a daily basis with the team that we hire at Freelancer Club. Everybody is freelance under my team, but also the next generation that we speak to. Those skills are absolutely imperative. So, problem solving, a growth mindset, dedicating a certain amount of time every week to develop a skill, a new skill outside of your technical specialism, digital literacy, which I can talk on in a little bit more detail, and what we like to call a fluid approach to freelancing, which is expecting and embracing the unexpected. And I think as technology continues to evolve so quickly, the one thing we can be sure about is we're going to have to adapt and change and meet the demands of a very unstable landscape of work. And those who can handle that, I think, will thrive in the area.
That's absolutely true. And you mentioned communication skills, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. I personally find it so important. You're only perceived as good as you can communicate about yourself, actually. So I totally agree to that. And do you think you've been in a freelance ecosystem for a very long time? Do you think freelance landscape is changing, and how it's changing to meet the needs and expectations of the newer generation coming to freelance economy?
It's changed a lot, probably in the last 10 years. So, for some context, I was a freelancer for nearly a decade as a photographer. And this is my fourth business, with almost all businesses in the middle and heartbeat of trying to support and help other freelancers. So all in all, I've been involved in freelancing for 25 years, and I mean it's unrecognizable. Even culturally, if we just think about how people perceive freelancing, how it's viewed by other people, we're starting to see, in a very positive way, more and more key stakeholders. So I'm talking about parents, government, education, and industry, although industry I think is already there, viewing freelancing as a viable career option. And they're waking up to the fact that more and more individuals are embracing freelancing and this way of life. Even in the UK, I mean, there's over half of Brits run a side hustle of some description, and we're seeing that number echoed globally, in a lot of countries. So there's the cultural aspect. I think the last few years in particular, tech has played a really important role. So it's never been as easy as it is today to start freelancing. Um, you can set up a side hustle in a couple of hours if you wanted. You could create a profile and start applying for jobs. If you want to freelance seriously, there's a few more steps than that, of course, but technology has made it incredibly easy. And if we think about the objective for most freelancers, certainly from a business point of view, is how do I reduce the number of non-billable hours and tasks? Building a website, chasing clients, getting clients, managing clients, and how do I increase the amount of time I'm doing the thing I love? So if that's the game, well, then technology is really helping. So we can remove a lot of the administrative work. We can introduce automation and use AI to help us with 4 or 5 of the key components that take up a lot of our time. So whether you are freelancing for money, for flexibility, for a better work-life balance, tech is having a profound impact. And that's something that excites me, but also I think we need to talk about more. and something I've noticed a lot in the last 6 months in particular, there's a growing divide between freelancers who are embracing automation, AI, and technology and those who are not. And what has happened is hiring clients have changed their expectation as to what they expect from their freelancers, because those who are using the technology are able to deliver a better product at a quicker pace, and those who are not are unable to compete with that first cohort. So I feel that we need to talk about democratizing digital literacy and finding ways to train and provide this technology to everybody. There shouldn't be any barriers, regardless of your financial situation, your background, anything. It doesn't matter. We should be talking about providing this tech and information and education to absolutely everybody, so that there are clear pathways to compete on a fair playing field as a freelancer, for sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. I hear you saying it's kind of becoming easier, but at the same time much more complex to run your business as a freelancer. And then not everyone may have equal opportunities to actually do it at the scale if you have all the accesses to the tools and systems and even internet in some cases. Is there anything else? You mentioned lots of things already, but is there anything else that established freelancers like us and others, or businesses even, or platforms can do better in order to educate and support this new generation?
Yeah, there's always things we can do better. I think something that's relatively new, and I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is the type of content that I think a lot of early stage freelancers are watching on TikTok, on Instagram, that are telling them you can make a lot of money without a lot of effort. And, it's almost like a get rich quick content that I think is very unhelpful. It really creates false expectations that freelancing is easy, or running a side hustle is, something that you can do in a couple of hours. And it continues to build that narrative around freelancing being a highly glamorized occupation. The vision of somebody with a laptop and a cocktail sitting on a beach, the digital nomadic idea. I think we need to, couple that, because it's important to attract people into what is possible. But I think we need to couple that with some realism. So I'd like to see a little bit more from the leaders in this space around the realities of freelancing. Let's talk about the good and the bad. And I think the next generation really appreciates authenticity, and they can smell bullshit from a mile away. So I think we should embrace that fact and start talking about the highs and lows of freelancing, why it can be an incredibly empowering way to go and live your life and work. But also, let's talk about some of the pitfalls. Let's talk about some of the difficulties and the challenges, and how collectively we can look to solve those. Some of them can be solved by, and are being solved by, tech and platforms in a great way. And others, I think, are much more nuanced and need wider discussion. But it all starts with an open and honest conversation, and then people can make their own minds up. But aside from that, the concept of workforce blending, which comprises the three pillars of flexible working, freelancers at the center of a workforce, and AI agents, is starting to become more popular. Meta's recent acquisition of Scale.ai, I think, really highlights that fact, that freelancers are going to become a central part of most companies' workforces, along with AI agents and flexibility. So that will have a trickle-down effect to more companies. And I think we're going to need to as a kind of thought leadership group, discuss how that's going to work for the future, and for freelancers. But what seems to be happening is freelancing is becoming a very legitimate option. And I think all of us can start to build on that, and provide as much support as possible for that next generation to come in and welcome them into this space, so that we have a fair environment for everybody.
This is brilliant, Matt, and thanks a lot for bringing this up. I actually never thought of this three main players in the work system, which are the employees, the freelancers, and then AI agents that coming quite rapidly into this space. So to wrap up, so I heard you saying that freelancing today is very exciting as a lifestyle. It's very attractive, but we need to be careful to convey the right message about it. And it's actually our role, established freelancers and those who've been in the field for a long time, to tell the truth about and the reality about the freelance business, and also educate coming freelancers about the fact that, not every business is making lots of money straight away. I think if we continue building this culture of support and mentorship, and exactly what you do with your community, we can build a much stronger and better ecosystem, because the people who coming after us will be looking at us, how we are doing our business here. Thanks a lot, Matt, for coming and for driving this change. I appreciate your work enormously, and see you around.
Thanks, Elina. Cheers.
Let's turn to Africa now. In Africa, while there are 40% unemployment rate across the continent, freelancing may become the obvious choice to build a career and create work on your own terms. Micro-enterprises and self-employment entrepreneurs account for 84% of total employment in Africa. However, 94% of which operate informally. There is still a lot to do there. I sat down with Shea Karssing to shed light on the opportunities and challenges faced by freelancers in Africa. Shea is award-winning SEO writer and author of Freelance Like a Boss. She's based in South Africa and has helped thousands of freelancers escape the grind, work smarter, and earn more. She is known for her strategies on building sustainable freelance businesses that create freedom and income stability. Please welcome Shea. Hi, Shea. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me back, Elina.
Yes. So you're based in South Africa, and I have a very specific question for you, as I know you are in contact with lots of freelancers over there. And can you tell us what unique opportunities and challenges do freelancers face in your part of the world that might look different for freelancers in Europe or in the States, for example?
Yes, so a challenge that people in developed countries might not be aware of is the issue of accessibility. So in South Africa specifically, the number of internet users has increased a lot in the last few years. And now the stats that I was checking before this interview, I saw it was around 75% of South Africans are able to access the internet, which is great. The only thing is this is mainly on mobile devices. So the stat that I found said that it's only about 10% of the population who have access to the internet on a computer or laptop at home. And, although there is a lot of business you can run off a mobile device, there definitely is a barrier to entry if you don't have internet at home, affordable internet at home, and a computer, which prevents you from entering a lot of the freelance economy. So in that, I think there's also an opportunity because there is talent. There's talent out there that just doesn't have the technology at the moment. But I am hopeful that things are changing. And, with the World Wide Web, you have worldwide opportunities. So, that stands in our favor. Another thing is, in the terms of opportunities, is a youthful population. Unlike many, I think especially European countries where there's issues, and Asian, of aging populations, South Africa and Africa as a whole is still quite a young population. So you do have people entering the workforce who are perhaps more open to technology, new ways of working. They're not still bound by legacy systems. So I think there's massive opportunity there too. One challenge that I'd also like to mention, though, is it can be a bit of a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, because there is high unemployment in South Africa specifically, and I think people are sometimes willing to accept less than their value out of desperation, whether that's a South African problem or just a freelancing problem in general. But that's definitely something that I see in my communities here in South Africa.
Yeah, you mentioned interesting facts and figures, and we do feel the inflow of workforce from Africa entering the European market, and I'm pretty sure US as well. And we kind of feel a little bit strange about it. And again, that relates to the pricing issue that you mentioned, because for us Europeans, it's very difficult to compete with brilliant minds out of Africa, and I see lots and lots of coming. And so they targeting international clientele, right? And for them, it's a great way to actually to earn and do the work. But what do you see as the key to overcoming perceptions or barriers when working across borders?
So one that you come across quite often is people who are worried about time differences and working across time zones. The nice thing about where we are is that working with Europe generally isn't a problem, because there's just a variation of a few hours here or there. Countries like Australia, it can be quite challenging, and the States. I actually have a couple of clients in the States, and I find it's a benefit in many ways, because I can have my work delivered on their desk, but before they've even got to work, and I almost have an extra day to get my work done for my clients in the States. When it comes to meeting times, you do then have to be a bit flexible in terms of meeting after hours at times that are more suitable to them. So yeah, time zones, there are ways obviously of getting around it. You just need to be a bit adaptable. Perhaps something that others may be concerned about is English proficiency. But many of us, although South Africa only has a smallish first language English-speaking population, a lot of the population speaks fluent English as a second language. And apparently our accent is seen as quite neutral, which is also a benefit. And because we are quite a multicultural society, we can understand other people's accents quite easily. We don't need subtitles. We're used to hearing different accents around us all the time. And as I mentioned previously, I think a perception that we need to overcome is that you can pay us a lot less than European or US or developed country counterparts. So yes, indeed, the cost of living here is a lot lower than many other places in terms of your rent, your food costs, and that kind of thing. So there are definitely some efficiencies, and I think it's about finding the sweet spot between earning what you're worth, but also perhaps there's a benefit to the client that they can pay somewhat less than they would pay a European counterpart, for example. But I think something else to remember, and based on my point that I was saying earlier about accessibility, so we've got to remember that the population in South Africa who have a stable internet connection and a laptop is a really small percentage of the population. And when it comes to lifestyle, you're in a position of privilege, and it's a privilege that you pay for. So, we pay for private medical care, private security, private schooling if you can. And all those costs add up too. So to be able to, this lifestyle is perhaps more expensive than people overseas may realize, because they see the general cost of living is a bit lower. So my advice, I guess, to freelancers who are from South Africa is to make sure that you're pricing what you're worth. I do have a calculator on my website, a freelance rates calculator, that helps people take all the variables into account so they can be assured that they're charging a fair market rate.
That's interesting. Thanks a lot for sharing that, Shea. And if you look 5 years ahead, what do you expect has to happen or will happen in South Africa and the wider continent in terms of freelance economy And how can freelancers prepare themselves for this change, if they need to prepare at all?
So I definitely think, as I alluded to, that accessibility to technology will continue to improve. As I mentioned, South Africa has the highest unemployment rate in the world. At the moment, it's about 40% of the working age population doesn't have a job. So I would really hope that with accessibility, these people will be able to create a career on their own terms. I mean, imagine that this 40% were able to tap into a global economy, and it would do so much for our country and I think so much for the world. I think we have a lot of value to add, but there are just a lot of barriers to entry. So I would really hope that in the next 5 years, accessible internet and technology can really make a difference. Also in technology, the way we get paid, so global payment systems, I think they continue to improve and become more streamlined and remove barriers there. And that's happening quite fast. So I definitely think in the next 5 years, we'll have quite efficient and affordable global payment methods that just lower friction there. And of course, we can't ignore the threats and opportunities of AI. So I think freelancers around the world need to look at developing higher order skills because, as we know, the bots are going to take the stuff that is the grunt work, as we call it. And freelancers need to look at where they can add human value to their offerings to remain relevant. So in my opinion, it's a challenging time, but it's actually really exciting for the world of work because we need to figure out how to get AI to do the lower order stuff and how best we put our actual human brains to work. And I think the freelancers that do that are those who are going to continue to succeed. So I think to summarize, in the next 5 years, freelancers in South Africa and around the world, we need to stay agile, obviously, and move from that reactive gig mindset of I've been given a brief, I'm going to complete the brief, to becoming more like business partners, adding value, and have more of a small business mindset.
The lack of access to technology, and we take it for granted because it's so available to us. And it's even shocking to hear that some people may not have access to internet, like how it is even possible. But that is reality still in this global world. And we have to take that into account when we think like global economy. It's not really for everyone still, which is quite shocking. But thanks a lot for sharing, Shea. That's been absolutely interesting insights. And we hope to see more of you in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, Elina.
Thanks a lot. Now it's time to go all over to Asia Pacific. The Asia Pacific region is the fastest growing startup ecosystem globally. While specific data on solopreneurs is limited, the rapid growth of startups and increasing number of self-employed individuals suggest a significant rise in solo entrepreneurship across the region. Solo entrepreneurs in Asia often face challenges such as limited access to finances, regulatory hurdles, and lack of supporting networks. Please watch my interview with Helle, CEO of Doerscircle. Doerscircle was selected as the leading startups in ASEAN by the World Economic Forum, and Doerscircle supporting freelancers in South Asia and beyond. Helle Priess is entrepreneur and board member with a strong international profile and more than 20 years of experience building and scaling businesses in Asia. Originally from Denmark, Helle has lived and worked in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Singapore, giving her unique insights into Asian culture and markets. Since 2009, Helle has been an independent doer, launching ventures, advising businesses, and serving on multiple boards. Please welcome Helle. Hello, Helle. Nice to have you here. I have prepared several questions for you, and the main one, what are the most significant trends you are seeing right now in the global freelance economy? And which of those trends you think will have the biggest impact in the next 2-3 years?
That's a very big and very broad and very very comprehensive kind of question. I think some of the biggest trends that we see right now, or some of the top trends that we see right now, is that there is a much higher demand for specialized, high-skilled freelancers compared to what we've seen before. That's especially within tech, within AI, within cybersecurity, and also digital consultancy more broadly. So you could say on an overall level, higher demand for specialized and high-skilled freelancers. Also, we see, and I think that's super positive, we see a shift towards longer engagement and a specialized freelance to hire kind of trend. And then obviously, but that's not just within freelancing, but that's on a general level, we see the impact of AI. So if I should say a few top trends that we are observing at the time being, then it's the number one, higher demand for specialized, high-skilled freelancers, shift toward longer term engagements, which is super positive, but then also the impact of AI. So these are some of the main trends that we're looking into at the time being. If you then ask me what, I think your next question was, which of these will have the impact in the next 2 to 3 years? I think definitely AI, and that goes in everything we do, that goes for companies with their permanent employees, but also within freelancing, AI and the skills recomposition, that is definitely a thing that will have a huge impact in terms of how we see companies operating going forward, and also the way that they're engaging freelancers. And secondarily, moving to the long-term engagements and more retainer and embedded freelancers. That will also change the way that the organizations work and operate and how they budget and manage the external talent. And I think if I should add on that one, then one thing that we're looking into here at Doerscircle also, and what we're looking at, and what we're discussing with some of the bigger companies that we are talking to, that is talent pooling or talent sharing. Say that a lot of big companies, they use more and more of these skilled, high qualified freelancers. They might use them for a certain period of time every year, but they can't afford having them sitting on the bench for 12 months. So but at the same time, they need to know that when they need them, they know that they have them. So we're looking very much into it. I think that's a thing that we're gonna see within the coming 2 to 3 years. That is talent pooling or talent sharing among non-competing companies, but companies that have a need for the same high specialized talent.
That's very interesting. I like how you said about specialization, because lots of freelancers still juggling, should I really specialize in something, or should I be a generalist? And you just said that actually focusing on specific niche is quite helpful. But if we speak about organizations and the way they engage with freelancers, is there one thing you would change in the way they interact with freelancers, and what would they make the biggest impact here as well?
If I should say that there are many things that I think we could do better and companies could do better, and the structures in society in general that could be better in terms of embracing the way that we live and work and the way that we will live and work going forward. But if I should say one thing right now for companies, organizations to look at, then it would definitely be to treat skilled freelancers more on equal terms with permanent employees. Are not as one-offs, or sometimes as we see it more like a product than a real human resource. So if I should mention only one thing, then it would definitely be for organizations to look at the freelancers more on equal terms with their permanent hires. And what does that mean in practical life? That translates into the way that you standardize contracts. It translates into the way that you onboard the freelancers. It translates into the access that you secure the freelancers in terms of internal knowledge sharing, resources, access to tools. So making sure that the freelancers you bring on board, they actually have the same kind of ability to perform and deliver and produce what they need to produce as you give your permanent hires. And last but not least, something that is also very close to my heart here in Doerscircle and something that we work with, but that is access to basic security, like for instance, health insurance. So making sure that the flexible workers you bring on board or the freelancers you bring on board, that you treat them on better terms and more equally compared to your permanent employees, also in terms of basic security, like insurance, for instance.
Yeah, I love it, love it. It's indeed very important. And what do you think freelancers can do differently to present themselves as reliable long-term partners in this relationship?
When I speak to freelancers, and I speak to quite a lot of those, because we have a lot of freelancers in our platform also, my first comment or advice, if you would call it that, would also always go in direction of systemizing, structuring, and documenting. So if I should give you 3 keywords, then it would be making sure that you set up a system, you structure your work, and you document your work. And that also includes the outcome of what you do. So the more systemized, the more structured, and the more documentation you can bring to the table, the more reliable a resource you're going to be also in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also builds trust with your clientele
Yes.
and sets the bar for future successes. I appreciate that, Helle. Thanks a lot. That's been very interesting. I hope we see more of Doerscircle around during the month, and a huge success further on.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me here. And I wish all the freelancers here an amazing Freelance Month. So let's all celebrate together. It's an amazing audience.
Thanks so much. So folks, one thing is absolutely clear. Freelancing is not going to stop. Millions of people are benefiting from the flexible work style, whether they have chosen it intentionally or not. Reports and statistics demonstrate that more and more companies are looking to utilize freelancers in the workforce. While data is currently limited to the freelance platform usage, I hope that one day we will see numbers showing the real engagement between clients and freelancers, which is by all means will be higher than we see in the reports. What becomes paramount is ability of freelancers to run the freelance business professionally. There is no longer an option to win it. The market is very competitive, and it's only to your advantage to learn how to run your own business. I am excited to announce at this point that Freelance Business Community is launching its first digital educational product aimed at helping freelancers to look at the business strategically and coherently. Along with the course, you will receive an assessment designed to identify your gaps and help you to focus on improving your weaknesses. Scan this code on the screen, join the waitlist, and I will reach out to you once we are ready to launch. This month, you'll hear from many more inspiring freelancers who have turned independence into opportunity. My pitch to you, as always, not only learn, but apply. Connect with as many people as you can during the month. It may be your course of contacts for the rest of the year. You're welcome to engage in conversations, whether during the sessions or on the platform, and truly enjoy the month. Take everything to your advantage. With this, I officially declare the Freelance Business Month open. Thanks everyone for joining. Enjoy. Bye.